everybody. My name is Diana Lee, and I am the Associate Director of Business Engagement at Institute for Market Transformation, or IMT. We are a national nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., and our mission is to decarbonize buildings to create a healthier community for the people who live in them. And we do this through three avenues of work: policy, engaging with communities, and also working with businesses. So in my role, I fall squarely under this last business engagement avenue. I run the Green Lease Leaders program, which is a recognition program for green leasing and also sets the standard for green leasing best practices. I'm very excited to be here today to talk about green leasing for the multifamily space. So here's a quick conversation roadmap. We're going to talk about some green leasing basics, why green leasing matters for multifamily, some recommended clauses, and I'll showcase a new resource. So before we get into it, the first question really is, what is a green lease? A green lease aligns sustainability goals and measures between the landlord and tenant or resident. And we'll dive into specific green lease language for multifamily later in this presentation. But before we do that, I also want to give you some more context about why green leasing in general matters today. So there are several market drivers and risks at play that are shifting the way that companies do business and how companies and people make decisions. We're seeing increasing climate-related disasters happening on a more regular basis, and these climate-related disasters are also more intense than ever. Think hurricanes, heat waves, wildfires like the ones raging across Los Angeles. These climate-related disasters are causing insurance rates to skyrocket and making energy costs unpredictable. Many companies are also seeing increased demand from their customers and investors who want to do business with responsible companies. So according to GRESB, which is the leading global ESG benchmark for real assets, over 95% of investors now use ESG data in their decision making. And a 2023 study by JLL shows that demand for high quality, low carbon spaces is set to outstrip supply of these spaces by 75% across major US markets by 2030. So that's only 5 years away from now. There's also this list of climate disclosure requirements. Many companies also have their own sustainability goals and need to find strategies to meet those goals. So all in all, these things added up together ends up with a pretty significant level of risk. You can't afford to do nothing when it comes to sustainability. So this is the opportunity for multifamily. According to ACEEE, a comprehensive approach to energy management can improve energy efficiency of US multifamily properties by about 15 to 30% and save $3.4 billion in utility costs. So that's a pretty significant amount of money. Additionally, reducing your energy water waste across multifamily properties can lower operating costs, increase your property's asset value, and make your properties more marketable because you can talk about the lower cost of living and increased comfort for residents. Green leasing is a tool that can help multifamily spaces tap into this increased utility efficiency and cost savings and improved marketability. So that all sounds great. I mean, we all want to save money, but where can you go to find out more? The Green Lease Leaders program. So this is the program that I run, and it was formed in 2014 by IMT and the Department of Energy's Better Buildings Initiative. So Green Lease Leaders sets the standard for green leasing best practices. We provide free technical support through our resources online. So we have different case studies, webinar recordings, example green lease clauses, and more. We also speak at conferences, webinars with folks like y'all to increase industry awareness and knowledge about green leasing. But we are most well known for our recognition program. So every year we open up an application process where companies can submit their leases for recognition. So having Green Lease Leaders demonstrates that your leases follow the Green Lease Leaders set industry best practices. And we're always evolving the program to make sure it remains relevant because the industry of today is different from the industry of 2014. And we're trying to make sure that we're continuing to address the different challenges that are available now and the different levels of sustainability. So we announced our 2024 cohort of winners last year. So cumulatively, Green Lease Leaders winners cover over 8.1 billion square feet. And that includes a range of property types, including multifamily, offices, industrial, and more. And our leaders also come from all over the globe. So many of our leaders are from the US, but we also have leaders out of Australia, the UK, Mexico, Canada, and more. And we actually just launched our 2025 cycle. So we're accepting applications now through April 2025. So if your company utilizes green leases, check us out and apply. Some benefits of the Green Lease Leaders recognition are that we fit into many different types of sustainability strategies. So green leasing supports LEED certification and GRES reporting, for example. Uh, Green leasing is a part of LEED Core and Shell and will also be a part of LEED V5. Green leasing is part of GRES TC4, which is worth up to 1.5 points. And with Green Lease Leaders, we provide a tiered levels of recognition. So we have silver to gold to platinum, is our highest level of achievement. So once you're on this pathway, it also provides you with a continued pathway for success, a roadmap, so that you can keep enhancing your green lease strategy. And through this program, we have a window into how multifamily landlords utilize green leasing. So on this chart, we have the 7 most utilized clauses by Green Lease Leaders, multifamily landlords. And all of these clauses work together to help the landlord get utility data for sustainability reporting, the ability to understand their utility consumption patterns, and the ability to make efficiency-related decisions at the building because you have this data. And then finally, you also have a way to engage the resident in regards to sustainability initiatives at the property level. So if you address all of these clauses, you may be eligible for Green Lease Leaders recognition. And we'll dive into the intent, the why behind each clause in the following slides. So this first clause, sharing a sustainability point of contact with the resident. It might seem basic, but having the right point of contact enables engagement, enables conversation. So providing this information ensures that residents are able to learn about and participate in sustainability initiatives at the property. And if the term sustainability doesn't resonate, you can say an energy efficiency contact, a utility efficiency, wellness. You can use the language that speaks to your residents, but it's more important that they have the actual information to connect with that point of contact. And then the second clause is implementing efficiency improvements during unit turns. So this one is more unique. It can be incorporated into the lease as a clause, but it's more important that this is a step in your operations of the property. The time when a unit is vacant is really the prime opportunity to upgrade the efficiency of that unit. So in the Green Lease Leaders reference guide, we do provide a list of potential measures to include or be reviewed during unit turnover. And being transparent about these specific measures to your resident helps to demonstrate to new and existing residents that you are committed to creating a healthy and efficient home for them. The next couple of clauses are tracking common area energy use at a minimum and tracking common area water use at a minimum. So while these are 2 clauses, they're often combined. So in the sample clause on this slide, I've used a combined clause. Tracking energy and water use is really that first step to managing performance and identifying opportunities for improvement at the property level. And while the 2 recommended clauses specify common area usage, we strongly recommend in obtaining whole building data whenever possible to get the most accurate understanding of the property's overall performance. And with this information, it enables you to identify trends in consumption and also understand the impact of any improvements that you make at the property so that you truly understand what the return on investment is. The next two clauses are disclosing energy performance to the resident annually and disclosing water performance to the resident annually. So similar to the last two clauses, these two are also often combined. This language allows landlords to engage and educate residents on sustainability issues at the property and establish more sustainability related communication. So in the example clause language on the slide, we reference the Energy Star score, but the Energy Star score can be substituted with another energy or water tracking metric like energy or water use intensity or total consumption. We also recommend this annual disclosure at a minimum so that you have a constant cadence of education and engagement with the resident. And then the last but not least, most commonly utilized clause by Green Lease Leaders multifamily landlords is resident data sharing and energy transparency. And the goal of this language is to engage the resident on energy data transparency and also ask for access to the resident's utility data. So what I mean by this is some utilities provide whole building aggregate utility data, but they require the resident to provide permission to include their unit data as part of the whole building. So we recommend using the leasing process as a way to get the residents permission for their unit data to be included. So that way the landlord has the unit data from the very beginning. The utility might also require a separate permission form for residents to complete in order to have their data included in that aggregate whole building data to the landlord. So in that case, we recommend using the leasing form um, as a way to include that form from the utility so that you get it signed right away from the resident. So I realize this is a lot of information to unpack, and it also takes time and internal engagement within your teams to understand which clauses are the most applicable and most useful for your situation. So we've summarized all this information into a new resource on the Green Lease Leaders website. And we also have many other resources that you might find helpful, such as additional green lease clause examples and also template green leases. And then before we go, I also want to flag a few additional programs that you might find helpful. So IMT has a corporate engagement opportunities program. And through this program, we track the ever-changing building policy, landscape, and regulations in the US. And this is really meant to help businesses better understand the various requirements and the risk of non-compliance with these policies. Some of these fees are extremely expensive. IMT also runs the Building Innovation Hub, which supports building industry professionals in the DC area to create and operate high-performing buildings. They also have lots of high-quality, publicly available resources on their website and host in-person events in the DMV. I also wanted to share two international green leasing resources. The Better Buildings Partnership has a green lease toolkit, which also offers examples of green lease clauses. And the Chancery Lane project has guidance and examples of incorporating sustainability requirements into legal documents and processes. So please check them out. Thank you so much. And for more information about green leasing and green lease leaders, please visit greenleaseleaders.com. And please feel free to reach out to myself as well. Thank you so much.
Diana, that was great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Do you have a few minutes for a few questions?
Yeah, of course.
All right, great. So the corporate engagement opportunity, I'm sure with the new administration that you may have some uptick and folks wanting to kind of be plugged in regards to, different executive orders may affect their energy or sustainability requirements or ESG requirements. What are you kind of seeing in that regard? And then is there an annual or monthly subscription fee? Kind of how does that work? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I can give you a bit of an overview, but my colleague runs that program. So for
Okay,
more
okay.
information, I can always connect you with him.
Yeah.
But it is a subscription-based program, and even though, there there's been a change in administration. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the federal level, but we're still seeing action happening at local levels. So with the tracker, it's meant it really tracks all of those regulations and the different requirements and updates. So there is a API data feed that we IMT have, and then that can be fed into um, whatever system that the subscription company or the member company has.
Understood. Understood. Okay, that's great. So, as you're aware, Maryland has the most aggressive climate law in the country called the Maryland Climate Solutions Now Act. It's a pretty aggressive building energy performance standard here in Maryland, which for buildings 35,000 square feet or more, if we're talking multifamily, it appears as though, based on what I'm hearing, that most of those building owners, all of them will have to renegotiate their leases and maybe convert them to green leases because one of the requirements of the Maryland Climate Solutions Now Act is that the building owners need to report tenant energy data. And there's nothing current in their leasing that requires the tenant to share that data, let alone potentially monetize that data. So it sounds like there probably will be an uptick in building owners executing green leases. Are you seeing that on your end here in Maryland?
Yes. So with Green Lease Leaders, we do have leaders from all over the US, all over the globe. But one of the main drivers in the uptick for green leasing and Green Lease Leaders recognition is because of building performance standards and building performance policies. Because you're exactly right. Green leasing is a way to get the data from the tenant or the resident. So I think of this as green leasing a is a tool, and you should be using all tools in your toolbox. So with green leasing, you can get access to the data that you need to report for these regulations, but also if there, I mean, that's just one piece, right? There are also other requirements. Maybe investors have questions and want to see data. Maybe there's a company-wide ESG target or decarbonization goal. So regardless of exactly the reason why, companies need the data from their resident or their tenant, and the green lease is a way to get it.
Right, right. So I'm very familiar with you mentioned the JLL report that talked about the demand for sustainability from investors, residents, and employers. Which I think when I saw the report last year was maybe, for every eight employers that were looking for sustainable spaces or energy efficient spaces with an environmental certification, like there was only one property per eight companies or organizations, that like an 8-to-1 ratio basically is what I'm trying to say. But I hadn't seen anything in the residential multifamily market. Are you aware of any data in regards to kind of a supply demand type ratios on multifamily?
I'm not aware of any recent information that's come out on that, but I think having that look into demand for offices is also a sign of what's to come for other property types.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good leading indicator. Good to know that the green leasing is also now a part of LEED version 5, which is great. I'm loving how LEED is transitioning from more of a design based building standard to more of a performance based building standard. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how that's working in LEED version 5? Do they get extra points if they add a green lease, or how's that working?
Yeah, so with version 5, they're still under public comment. So nothing is
Right,
finalized yet.
right.
But as of now, green leasing is innovation, part of their innovation library
Okay.
of credits, and it as of right now, it will still be a part of lead core and shell. Still more to come on whether it will be a credit incorporated into the other rating schemes.
Got it. Got it. Just a few other questions here, and thank you so much. So I didn't, and I'm sure there probably is language in there, and you probably have it in the green lease, but I didn't hear anything in regards to indoor air quality. monitoring, measurement, management as part of the Green Lease Clause? Is that something that is a part of green leasing, or are you seeing a demand for it? Where are you in regards to indoor air quality monitoring?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, with the clauses that I pointed out in the presentation, these are the most commonly utilized ones that I've seen from Green Lease Leaders. But that being said, these are not the only Green Lease clauses out there. So, there are green leasing clauses specifically targeting wellness and indoor air quality. And I know for residential in particular, green cleaning is a pretty big one. So there is green leasing language out there, but in terms of most common, which ones are the most commonly used, it's the ones that I've seen in and presented in this presentation and in that new resource that I mentioned.
Sure, sure. And I'm sure post-COVID that demand will probably only tick up. I'm sure that you've found you'll probably agree or maybe not agree, I don't know, but I found the building kind of construction commercial real estate industry to be the least digitized, declining in productivity and has a strong resistance to change. Are you finding the demand for green leasing more on the owner side, or are you finding that more demand from the residents, tenants, employers kind of driving that this language be input into the leasing? Where's the demand side coming from?
Yeah, that's a great question and also a very funny one because where I sit with Green Lease Leaders, our recognition program it's for landlords and tenants. So I engage with both, and I hear stories from both. So both have a reason to get to do a green lease. From the landlord side, we talked about building performance standards,
Mhm.
um, company-wide goals. As landlords, if you have a portfolio of thousands of properties, then how can you actually translate a company-wide goal, organization-wide goal down to your individual properties? You need a green lease. And if you need to report data for BPS, you need a green lease in order to get the data. And then as tenants, like you're trying to find the best space for your needs. And for residents, you're trying to live in a healthy space. And
Mhm.
you're trying to live in a way that meet in a way that where you're not spending all of your money on energy.
Right.
So there's demand from both sides for a green lease. I think the challenge the challenge is twofold. One is just education of green leases, what they are, and why it's beneficial for you as a landlord or as a tenant or resident. That like we still need more education, and that is one of the goals of Green Lease Leaders. We're trying to get the word out there about green leasing because green leasing is not a new thing. It's been a tool um, since we essentially formalized it in 2014 with this program. So it's not new, but we still need to educate, and we still need to educate not just Class A properties, but also Class B and C properties as well, that this is a tool at your disposal. And then the second issue is that sustainability point of contact that you mentioned, because during that lease negotiation process, the sustainability person, if there is one, is usually not part of that conversation. So you need to have the right point of contact in order to talk about sustainability things. So if I'm a tenant per se and I want to do something sustainability related to my space, the property manager might not always be the right person to talk to. They probably have thousands of things on their list. Sustainability might not be one of them, and there might be a different contact in a different department that you actually need to talk to, who understands what you're looking for. So I'd say that those are two two of the most significant hurdles when it comes to uptick of green leases. But green leases, there's demand from both sides, and a green lease is meant to benefit both sides as well. It's all about creating a win-win situation. And it's all about making sure that you landlords and residents or tenants are talking to each other because ultimately Sustainability is a team sport, and especially at the property level,
Mhm.
sustainability is very, very much a team sport. So you need to work together, and the Green Lease is one of the tools in order to foster that collaboration.
Yep, yep, I agree wholeheartedly. One of the things that I've talked to my, clients about as well is, you mentioned green leasing not being something new, like the Government Service Administration, the GSA, which is the largest property owner, asset owner in the world. Along with some state governments, also have clauses in their lease in regards to energy. Like, for example, with GSA, the federal government can't lease a space above 10,000 square feet that's not Energy Star certified. Like that's like kind of base for government or federal leasing. And then there's been some statewide offices that or statewide agencies that have like indoor air quality requirements, like a carbon dioxide can't be above 800 parts per million, or the particle matter needs to be at a certain amount. Like those clauses are in their leases. And so I see it kind of what you're doing as kind of making sure that the rest of everyone else, whether they're corporate tenants or looking to a resident looking to lease a multifamily property, is aware that these types of things do exist, that you can negotiate these types of things, because there are building owners that are very innovative and making sure that they're spreading the word that they do have a healthy, sustainable, smart, high performance building. And so those are the ones that are actually demanding a few more dollars on the rent and a little bit more profitable because they are making these investments. So this has been great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed that people should know?
Thank you so much, Aaron. I just say check us out, go to our website, and if you use green leases or want to use green leases, please look at our resources. We are here to help and we're here to educate where we can.
I apologize. I do have one quick question.
Yeah.
What would you say is the number one barrier to adoption of green leases, either by building owners or by multifamily tenants? What's kind of standing in the way of them really embracing this?
Mhm. I think it still comes back to education because there's the knowledge that green leases exist and or a lack of knowledge about green leasing, but it's also like who has the knowledge about green leases because sustainability teams or sustainability specialists, they may know of green leases, but they're not part of the leasing process. So then you need to get your leasing team, your brokers, your lawyers involved and talk about why green lease clauses are a benefit for for your organization. It's a green lease clause, whether it be about energy efficiency, water efficiency, engagement, et cetera, um, choose, they are not meant to be an extra. It's not oh, we're just going to immediately cross this off because we don't know what it is. Um,
Right.
you need to engage with your leasing teams to show like, hey, this is important and we need to keep it, and this is why it's important. So even though we call it green leasing because it's related to sustainability, it's also just about smart leasing practices. Like these are
Right.
clauses that are going to help your company
Hmm.
achieve a goal, whether it be data for building performance policies, whether it
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
lowering operating costs. Like
Hmm.
this is about smart leasing and reducing risk to your property.
Right. Right. Diana, this is exactly what we're looking for. This is exactly what we needed today. So thank you so much for your subject matter expertise and your thought leadership on the topic. And we'll chat again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye bye.